It was a cold November night in Moscow, Idaho. The small college town was winding down after a long weekend, and the University of Idaho campus shimmered peacefully under the streetlights. But just a few blocks away, inside a 3-story rental home on King Road, something truly unthinkable was about to happen.
Ho, ho, ho!
At 4 a.m. for college students Scaly Goncalves, Madison Morgan, Shauna Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were asleep in their beds. They had just spent the evening out with friends, a typical Saturday night filled with music, laughter, and late-night food before heading home to rest. It was the kind of night they had lived 100 times before. No one could have imagined it would be their last.
Ho, ho, ho!
Around that same time, a white Hyundai Elantra was seen circling the neighborhood. Security cameras captured its headlights sweeping across the empty streets, making pass after pass. Inside that car sat a man who had spent months, even years, studying how killers think, and tonight, he would become one. His name was Bryan Kohberger.
Ho, ho, ho!
He was 28 years old and a PhD student in criminology at nearby Washington State University. By all accounts, he was intelligent, observant, and soft-spoken. On paper, he was the kind of person who wanted to understand crime in order to stop it. But beneath the academic surface, something much darker was growing, a fascination with power, control, and the ultimate transgression of taking a human life.
Ho, ho, ho!
Just before 4 a.m., he parked his car, killed the engine, and slipped into the darkness, dressed head to toe in black, wearing gloves, a mask, and carrying a large military-style knife. He moved silently toward the off-campus house, where a faint light still glowed from a kitchen window.
Ho, ho, ho!
Inside, the house was quiet. Then, the sliding glass door opened. For a few agonizing minutes, there was only silence. But then, the horror began. One of the surviving roommates later told police she heard something crying from upstairs, footsteps, and then a man's voice saying softly, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." But it wasn't okay. It was a lie designed to disarm and deceive.
Ho, ho, ho!
By sunrise, 4 young, promising lives were gone, and the killer had vanished back into the night, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable brutality. When police arrived later that morning, what they found was pure chaos. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. It was a vicious, targeted attack. There was no sign of forced entry, no obvious fingerprints, no murder weapon left behind.
Ho, ho, ho!
All they had was confusion, a grieving community, and a crime so brutal it stunned the entire nation. Who could have done this, and why? For weeks, the town of Moscow was a city gripped by fear. Students fled the campus, too terrified to stay. Locals double-checked their locks at night, wondering if the killer was one of them.
Ho, ho, ho!
The police were inundated with thousands of tips, with investigators working around the clock to find a lead. The pressure was immense, and then they got a break. Investigators painstakingly reviewed hours of security footage from the surrounding area and spotted that same white Hyundai Elantra speeding away from the scene just before dawn. It was a tiny clue, but it was everything.
Ho, ho, ho!
Detectives began tracing the vehicle, a journey that led them to Washington State University and to a graduate student named Bryan Kohberger. As they dug deeper into his life, the puzzle pieces started to fit together in the most chilling way. His cell phone data was a roadmap of obsession.
Ho, ho, ho!
It showed his phone had pinged near the victim's house at least 12 times in the months leading up to the murders, often late at night. It looked like he had been stalking them, learning their routines and planning his attack. But the most damning piece of evidence was found at the crime scene itself. Lying next to one of the victims was a tan leather knife sheath.
Ho ho ho!
On its button snap, forensic experts found a tiny trace of male DNA. It didn't match anyone in the national database. So, investigators took a different approach. They retrieved trash from Koberger's family home back in Pennsylvania and tested the DNA found on it.
Ho ho ho!
The sample from the trash was a familial match to the DNA on the knife sheath. It belonged to his father. That was the clue that sealed his fate. On December 30th, 2022, a SWAT team descended on his parents' home. Brian Koberger was arrested thousands of miles away from the crime scene, hiding in plain sight with his family for the holidays. He didn't resist. He didn't confess. He just stared blankly,
Ho ho ho!
as if he were studying the officers who had finally caught him. During the investigation, something truly disturbing came to light. This wasn't just a random act of violence. Koberger, the criminology student, had attended lectures on serial killers, criminal profiling, and forensic evidence.
Ho ho ho!
He had even conducted online surveys for a school project, asking former inmates disturbing questions about how they chose their victims and what they felt during their crimes. The killer had been studying his own dark craft, using his academic knowledge to try and commit the perfect murder.
Ho ho ho!
In July of 2025, Brian Koberger was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The motive, it remains a mystery. He never explained why he did it. He never revealed why he chose those 4 specific students. He has remained silent, leaving a void where answers should be.
Ho ho ho!
But for the families of Kaylee, Madison, Shauna, and Ethan, no answer will ever be enough to bring them back. 4 beautiful lives, full of potential, were extinguished in just a few minutes. A quiet college town was forever scarred by an act of incomprehensible evil, and perhaps the most terrifying question of all remains: how many more are out there like him?
Ho ho ho!
Hiding in plain sight, studying us, and pretending to be one of the good ones, just waiting for their turn. This has been AI True Crime Files. If this story gripped you, make sure to subscribe for more real cases that reveal the darkest corners of the human mind. Thanks for watching.
Ho ho ho!